All right, folks, good morning, welcome. It's a Thursday, November the 1st, 2018. And so if you look at the calendar, you have 60 more calendar days to go. Not still late to do something. All right, this morning, the nation state and religious activism, or if you like, religious fanaticism. The IMN dread. Now, the unsightly scenario of Saturday, October 27th, between devotees of Ibrahim El-Zakzaky's Islamist movement of Nigeria, IMN, and the Nigerian military in the nation's capital must be properly situated. Nobody can defend the very nasty outcome that was totally avoidable in the first place. The IMN is close to some 40 years in the country and was founded by the very brilliant economics major of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. The group aims at invoking a fanatical brand of Islam in a largely moderate Islamic environment. This brings the group into conflict every now and again with security folks in the country. El-Zakzaky's detention, going 2 years now, provokes the inescapable debate of which is supreme, national security or rule of law. So we are back there. Let's quickly meet our two guests at the moment. Eniton Olukotun, right?
Yes,
He's a journalist and a public affairs analyst. I greet you, welcome.
It's a pleasure being a citizen, John.
There's also Alester Wilcox, chartered accountant and social commentator. I greet you too.
Thank you for having me, and good morning. I could say happy new month to the esteemed listeners.
Okay then, so we are back with the debate.
Yes, we are back.
Which is the more superior of the two? Rule of law, national security, vis-a-vis what's on the floor. Anytime.
Yeah, if you look at it, rule of law, national security, I think there is a blur line between two. But there is no nation on earth today that will fold his hand and allow, his society to be thrown into chaos, under the pretext or guise of you trying to ensure rule of law or fundamental human rights of people to protest. So if you look at the situation we have on our hands and the way the Shiites, the Al-Zakzaky disciples are conducting themselves in the last few days, it actually calls for concern. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that, are these people telling us that they are bigger than the Nigerian state? Or are they up to something quite mischievous? Because I don't know anybody in his best frame of mind that will see a military barricade and walk or charge towards the military with guns.
No, but they are telling you the right to process is still there.
Yes.
You can process.
Of course, you can.
You don't need any permission to go on a procession.
Yes, of course, but if the security agencies have sufficient intelligence and information on their hands that these protests or procession, as they want to call it, has certain hidden agenda.
Well,
that could further,
your definition.
Yes, that could further undermine the fragile security we have on our hand. I think the best thing for them to do is to nip it in the bud and stop those people in their track.
Nip it in the bud legally.
Yeah, legally, and that is exactly what they did. I think, if I'm not mistaken, on Monday or thereabouts, that about 400 members of the sect, were arrested, and some of them, and if you recall very well, I think they used water cannons and some other lesser kind of force to overpower them, to actually contain them and find a way of, bringing everything under control.
Some of the words you are employing scare me, overpower, Okay, but let's get to hear how Alex opened.
Yes, citizen.
Alester, rather.
Thank you very much. We're trying to identify or trying to situate properly national security and human rights. Of course, if there's no national security, how will you protect your human rights? If whatever rights you have, if the environment is not secured, you can't practice it. You can't claim it. I mean, we know, let's take an analogy what was happening in the Northeast a few years back with relative calm now. I mean, if you are in the North.1st and you want to process in Maiduguri, maybe in 2013 or 2014, and you want to have this kind of protest in Maiduguri, will you, on your own senses, go on such protest in the name that you want to exercise your fundamental human right to process? Of course, because there was no security. There was breakdown of security, there was breakdown of him. So the security situation, if it is not properly arranged, you cannot exercise.
Was that the setting in Abuja?
No. I'm just putting it in context.
Okay.
If there is no national security, if there's no security, that
you can't leave your home.
You cannot exercise whatever rights you want to exercise. You can only exercise your right when the environment is secured, when there is stable peace and tranquility. So I think then, dovetailing from that, I think what takes precedence over every other thing is national security. Because if the environment is secured, everyone can exercise his own right.
The rightists would tell you no to that.
Yeah.
National security vis-a-vis, or on the same plane or pedestal as human rights.
Yes.
In the name of national security, should you abridge my rights to free movement?
Citizen, what I'm also telling you and the rightists is that if there is no security, that your right to movement will have automatically been abridged. Because, I mean, I just paint the picture for you. It is a right of El Kanemi Football Club to play in Maiduguri, which is their base. It's their right. It is the right of Sharks or Football Club or what do you call them, Rangers, to go to Maiduguri to play in the 2012, 13, 14. But when there was no security in Borno State, in
matches
Maiduguri,
were cancelled.
Yes, in Maiduguri. Now, did any of them exercise those rights? Of course, their right was automatically abridged. El Kanemi has to move. El Kanemi has to move from Maiduguri to Abuja or to Bauchi, whatever place they are playing their matches, where there was security and they could exercise those rights. So what am I saying? If there is no security, therefore you can't exercise those rights. Therefore, if one person will constitute a breach to that security that is for everybody, then it is better that one person's right is being stripped of him in order that every other person will be secure to exercise their own rights.
Very good, but anytime.
Yes, sir.
If you follow from there.
Okay.
But the continued incarceration of Ibrahim El-Zakzaky is causing friction. And the court had pronounced, let this man go, release him on bail.
Okay.
So how do you reconcile that with what we're saying?
if you look at...
Was the Judge Gabriel Kolawole wrong in making that pronouncement?
No. The judge wasn't wrong. The pronouncement, as it were, is well situated. However, you must look at it vis-a-vis, the security reality we have on our hands. If you recall, when the judge ruled that El-Zakzaky should be released and returned back to his home in Zaria, in Kaduna, the question we ought to ask ourselves is that, what is the antecedent of this man? What has he been doing, in that environment for years? I understand that he started this thing when the Iranian Revolution of 1979 started in Iran, and he thought he was a student unionist in Ahmadu Bello University, and a very brilliant man for that matter, but he thought he could replicate the same thing here. But the way and manner he has been conducting his affairs actually cause for concern. And even if the judge has ruled that release him and let him go, if you release him and he creates or his release of freedom, constitute what we call a larger security threat, because you must look at it. Governance or any decision must be for the benefit of the greater number of people.
Yeah.
So that is the totalitarian school of thought as far as governance is all about. Good and fine. If you ask me, he has been in a protective custody all this while with the wife. And when they were proud, people were making noise that he has been, he has been killed, and one of the eyes has been shot, and another. The security operatives brought him out, He addressed the press, and they kept him back in that, in that protective custody.
But he lost 6 sons.
Hold on. Let me weigh in on that. The 6 sons he lost, it didn't start.
Over 2 years.
No, it didn't start in 2015. If you recall.
No, I never said so. In 2013, 2014.
Exactly.
Yes, of course. You know, even if you look at it, it is not so. Some people will like to call a dog a bad name just to hang it. You know, they will say maybe it's because of the Buhari presidency is high-handed, or is he is not tolerant. That's why they are keeping El-Zakzaky in detention, or the clamp down we have on it. If you recall, Buhari was not in government in 2014 when the same set had a confrontation with the military.
Okay.
In the process, he lost, unfortunately, he lost 3 sons during that incident. And in 2015, again, as if, they are on a sustained kind of deliberate provocation.
Exactly.
In 2015,
your words,
now, because if you look at the trajectory, it can't just be a coincidence. It is deliberately planned. So if in 2014 you had an encounter with the president, unfortunate encounter with the military, armed forces, people carrying weapons and all that, during your own procession you will block the road and ask them that they can't pass. And if they ask you, if they want to disperse you peacefully, you will turn the whole thing into violence. So definitely,
all right.
the security, because the truth of the matter is that we must make it abundantly clear that the military, is a symbol of the Nigerian strength. So if any security, any set or any group under any guise of any religious pretext, could subdue the military into intimidation, it actually portends grave dangers for our democracy itself.
Alester, we must reflect here that it's a tragedy of sorts, a paradox of sorts, that the military in Nigeria is doing the job largely
for the police.
That should have been done by the police.
No, I don't
because
think
intelligence would have done us a lot more good.
Internal insurrections, you can't leave that. Internal insurrection, you can't leave that to the...
Like I said in some other fora, the antecedents of El-Zakzaky, right from 1979.
His group, we're talking about Islamic movement
he himself,
in Nigeria.
he started it.
Okay, all right.
His antecedent, now a man that was denied his first-class certificate from ABU Zaria. ABU Zaria is in the heartland of Islamic Nigeria. So it is not a matter of anybody fighting Islam. It's not a matter of an individual fighting Islam itself or trying to impose his own version of Islam on the. So a brilliant man like that, who the ABU, not University of Lagos, not University of Ibadan, University of Calabar, ABU Zaria denied his certificate on account of his activity, needs to be washed. And ever since then, there has been repeated
brushes
with the law.
Yeah.
Because they see themselves as a law unto themselves. They do not see themselves as respecting the constitutional authority of Nigeria. They see themselves as a state inside Nigeria. That is why they want to carve out a caliphate, a kind of structure for their own self, patterned after Iran. So
that's the Shiite
the Shiite movement.
Yes,
so that tells you that this group, they are not operating based on the constitution of Nigeria. They see themselves as outside the constitution. Now, if you see yourself outside the constitution of Nigeria, that's why they are living in Nigeria, you will not be entitled to the rights and privileges as enshrined in the constitution of Nigeria.
I'm building
up a situation.
Okay.
Now, if you see yourself outside a Nigerian, you are not a Nigerian, you want to establish a caliphate, a sort of your own government, your own administration and everything, you cannot claim right to that same constitution of Nigeria. Then you become an enemy of state. Any day you come in contact with the law, you become an enemy of state, you become a combat. But let's not take it to that extreme.
Has he been so declared?
No. I'm not taking it to that extreme, but I'm only painting the scenarios that we almost look into. If you don't come and say Nigerian and you are propagating a different structure, well, Nigeria is a secular state. Nigeria runs a democratic government. We're not running a religious Islamic government. We're not a democratic government. So if you see yourself that you want to institute the Islamic agenda government for yourself, and your group, and you want to spread that to other parts, then you are enemy of state, and the law is there to deal with that situation. Now, if over the years you have been having brush with the law, when you want to do whatever procession, which is your right if you're a Nigerian, you get police security and police protection to do your, so that other road users are not inconvenienced. Now, I know the route between Kano, going to Kano from Zaria from Kaduna. Zaria is in the middle between, and it's a busy road. And if for your procession, for hours, days, for whatever, you block that road and say nobody passes until you are finished, my dear brother, are you respecting the rights of others? What human rights are you propagating that your own should be respected? So I think we must draw the analogy. And if a group has continuously, in 2011 there was a brush, 2013 there was a brush, you lost your sons, and you are still propagating this same doctrine to people. And let's also get it clear. They are not only casualties. The security agencies also sustain casualties. They sustain injuries. Their assets are destroyed.
But Lester, firing live bullets was, for me, don't you think is a little bit of an overkill?
If an armed robber comes to, if you go and confront an armed robber.
No, but you have various means of.
No, if you go to confront an armed robber.
Controlling crowds.
If you go to confront an armed robber, what do you go with? A baton?
No, we are not dealing with robbers here. No,
Hold on. These are groups that
we are not dealing with.
I said armed robber. I didn't say gun armed robber.
Listen,
now, in the law.
I got you from the first minute, but I'm saying anything.
All right, sir.
There are more ways than one of killing a cat. That's what we are told, you know.
I've not killed one before.
No, but couldn't you have done with water bombs, water cannons and all that? Tear gas?
Yes, of course. You know, Citizen Jones, see,
should you fire live bullets?
The situation you are painting, you are creating a scenario in which you have orderly, protesters or people who just want to vent their hangers. These are people we are told. These are people we are told were caught with petrol bombs.
Hold on, I'm in charge here, but I'm not imposing my will here. But I'm saying the group said announced 3 days before the procession on Saturday, 27th.
Okay.
Look, we are doing this. Mm-hmm. So it was clear from the first minute.
Of course.
It is the same old IMN members.
Okay.
So you think the ugly scenario was not preventable?
No, it couldn't be preventable in such a way that you have people who have certain agenda, and they have already declared war against the constituted authorities we have in the nation. For instance, if you have people who just want to protest or do a procession, in support of their agenda or their ideology and all that, without any security threats, is a different thing than you have people who are using children and women as human shield, and you have some folks who are lying, who were behind them, throwing stones, pebbles, and other dangerous weapons at the security forces.
Like bombs?
Yeah, petrol bombs. They caught them with petrol bombs. The 400 members of the cell that were arrested, they were caught with dangerous weapons.
All 400 of them?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure every one of them were caught with but a sizable number of them were caught with some dangerous weapons. So the point I need to ask you is that if you were to be in the security operative shoes, would you allow them to kill you or to cause major mayhem before you react? So that is a desperate and a very stringent situation will cause for a more proactive kind of clampdown in which we have seen. And that clampdown is necessary at this time. In fact, the security agency ought to beef up security in Abuja and in some other states that are vulnerable to this attack. Because this is how the Boko Haram and some other insurgent issues we have on our hands, this is how they started.
Okay.
We need to weigh in on time and start being...
The viewer, the idea is not to make the viewer split his opinion or her opinion. It is to put these things straightforward on the table.
All right.
Yeah. So the right of El-Zakzaky rather to form the group is always there.
Is there.
Because the group is recognized by law.
Is
Of
there.
course.
He has,
Has not been prescribed.
He has, I don't know about if he's registered with CAC. I don't know if the group is registered with CAC.
If a group has been operating in Nigeria close to 40 years, you think...
No, if it's not registered with CAC, it's not a body corporate. And it's not a group.
Yeah, but it has not been so pronounced.
No, what I'm saying is, if a group...
Compared to IPOB or Boko Haram.
No, if a group is not... Now, the activity has not... It is now that the activity has taken this wide dimension. For instance, we talked about what happened in 2013, or 2014, when that other serious clash took place. It's like government took it to a kid's glove and said, okay, let's see how we manage it. Remember, citizen, when the governor of Kaduna State, the current governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, mooted a decree, an edict to regulate preaching in Kaduna State, asking that preachers should obtain licenses. What happened? People misconstrue that move of the governor then.
Did you understand the motive first time?
Yes.
To mean what?
To mean that there are elements, what do you call it now? There are elements within the system, within the Kaduna State, that stirs up violence through religion. And El-Zakzaky is one of them, that incites people against even the Islam itself, the Sunni Islam itself. So I think he's foresaw because it has been a continuous thing. But the fortunate thing was that it is even my Christian fool that shouted more than on top of their voices, oh, Islamic agenda. You want to Islamize Kaduna State. And that matter killed. Now, if that has taken place, maybe the El-Zakzaky will have been asked to take a permission and all what. Now we're seeing some of the fallback of why religion should be controlled in our society, especially in volatile areas where there are divergent opinions and views. El-Zakzaky is a Muslim, and the president is a Muslim. Most of the governors and those in the north affected by his activities are Muslims. And so it is not a Christian-Muslim fight or a traditional worship fight. It's not a brand of Islam that is alien to our environment. That is alien to the heartland of Islam, which is Saudi Arabia. Today, Saudi Arabia and Iran don't see eye to eye because of their own brand of Islam. And that's what is being imported into Nigeria. Now, this is how Matasini started. And thank God that at that time, the military rose up. I remember when Matasini happened, the military rose up. It was with jet fighters that they were able to disperse them because they were really, really a menace. And of course, they all propagated Islam. So we don't need to.
You see you see anybody or anything behind the mask?
Yes, of course.
So what are you saying?
So if you look at it, you can't totally rule out the invasion of certain political interests, in the entire drama that is going on. Because if you look at it, if the IMN members or supporters who trekked all the way from Nasarawa through Abuja and all that, they will need supplies. You need logistics. You need, a kind of mobilization. So where are all this support coming from? So definitely, and you have seen that in recent time, you can see some politicians who are cashing in and wants to make certain political capital out of the mayhem. So you see them joining the procession. These are people that couldn't even, that can't do ablution in Islam. They can't do anything. They don't know where to face. When praying in this, they have joined. And they want to turn the whole thing into a political kind of mayhem. So the point is that we must look at it.
For me, if you have taken it back to 2013,
all right,
you couldn't possibly say it's because of 2019. This is playing out. You could not say that.
No. If you look at it, you can't rule out the fact that, there is a 2019 calculation into what
from
is going on.
2013?
No, I'm not talking about 2013. I'm talking
but we have
about
to start from somewhere.
No, we are talking about this one, the renewed. So
at any point.
Even the renewed vigor, and the unusual boldness of these sects members to confront the military. I think it has some strong political backings of some political heavyweights in this nation that go ahead, we are with you.
So
what
do they want?
So we have said it now, because actually
I missed it.
No. He alluded to the fact that these people have already set down their agenda long ago, since 1979, when these, they are looking for a. No, I'm talking when the movement was funded. When Ibrahim El-Zakzaky funded this thing after. We want to pattern it after the Iranian Revolution, when we saw in Iran that we now have a supreme leader. The overthrowing
when you hear things like he's being supported, backed, or funded by Iran, you tend to believe that?
Yes, of course. It's not a false theory.
But citizen,
it's not a false theory. It's not a false theory if you look at it that Iran has its own international interest too. It's trying at all costs. If you look at the fight that is going on in Yemen.
Yemen, yes.
You understand? Iran is really supporting, it has its own allied forces fighting in Yemen, and the Saudi coalition forces too, they are fighting. If you look at it, it will be an extension. What Ibrahim El-Zakzaky is doing here is an extension of the Iranian agenda.
What was
so in terms of the support, they will give them massive support to ensure that the agenda actually scales through.
In 2015, when this thing came up, the first country to react and ask the president to intervene and free was Iran. The Iranian government came up openly to condemn and to request that, and that was an insult on the president, on the sovereignty of Nigeria. Who is Iran? Apart from violence, who is Iran?
Iran
can only export violence.
Is a sovereign country
that can only export violence. So what? President Bush called it an axis of evil. And so, what does Iran? What is the interest of Iran?
Axis, Iraq,
Afghanistan, and I think Iraq.
That was the axis.
The axis of evil, as propagated by George Bush. So that was so we know that any Shiite fundamentalism has its root in Iran.
All right, I pause it there. We must take this break and return. Let's say that the debate is just warming up. We'll be back after this break. All right, folks, we're back, and let me quickly introduce my third guest. Omadele Boyo is a medical practitioner, but a national affairs commentator. I greet you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers. Yeah.
Okay, then, we have a little footage to share. It's something like this. All right, then, a little hitch there. Dr. Boyo, how do you join the fray? We are saying the El-Zakzaky's case and his followers is returning us to the trench where we started out from in the heady days of the militancy in the Niger Delta. Which is supreme, rule of law or national security?
I think we're going to be consistent. Rule of law should be supreme, but we should have at the back of our minds national security. It's hard to marry the two. That is the problem. And when the issue of national security comes up, we have to be very conscious about national security. I will go for rule of law, and it should be across the board. And if you watch it very carefully, like my colleagues have been saying, El-Zakzaky is a product of a turbulence of the 70s. I mean, a 65-year-old man, by 1977, he was at Samaru, main campus of Ahmadu Bello University, where he was born and where he grew up. And incidentally, he had a bitterness also. He was the Secretary General of the Muslim Student Society and had been building on this radical Islamic tendency called the Shia movement. And by the time he graduated with the first class in economics, his Islamic tendencies had even affected the university so much that I don't think he went away with his degree. And that was also
was denied.
Yeah, that was also the time of the uprising in Iran, where Khomeini was toppling the Shah of Iran. And he went to Iran, really. That's where he became a cleric. It was in Iran he got indoctrinated, if I may use that word, into the Shia movement. And 98% of the Muslims in Nigeria are Sunni. And he came back, and the major issue there in the Islamic movement is not just to propagate Islam, but to enthrone a government in Nigeria that will be not only Islamic in nature, but will have an Islamic head. And then maybe like we have in Iran,
a caliphate.
Yeah, a caliphate, or you know, an ayatollah,
a supreme head.
But it's still amazing that the man over the years has been able to, as it were, rally behind him almost millions of people in the Shia movement. So by now, the Shia movement that before now was almost negligible.
You don't see the two elements of illiteracy and poverty here?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, when the people have no work, have no education, and are hungry, they will likely follow anybody that can feed them. And most of us will know that in the North, one of the basic tendencies in the North is the Al-Majiri movement, and the fact that most people are still uneducated, most people are still poor. Even in Islamic literacy, is still very poor.
So and intellectual poverty is the more dangerous of the two.
Yeah, more dangerous of the two. And even Islamic literacy, if Islamic literacy is pursued and is well harnessed and we remove every aspect of bigotry, I mean, a lot of things will have happened. But the point is, the rate it went, they allowed the children, the young people, because they could be very useful to anybody. Just like when we talk of area boys in the South here, they could be very useful to anybody. And El-Zakzaky was smart enough not just to recruit these boys, but to indoctrinate them.
As an aside, area boys in the South, will that be products of illiteracy and poverty?
Unemployment.
Okay.
Unemployment.
Because some of them, we are told, are educated.
Yes, unemployment.
Okay.
And unemployment. And also, when you get underemployed and you become willing tools in the hands of wealthy politicians, you are now used both as kidnappers and all kinds of things. But in the North, because of religion, if you notice this, and I've been saying it over and over again, when these things happen, the voices we hear condemning these movements and condemning aspects of violence in the North don't even come from the very vocal northern elements. One will expect the Bala Osman, one will expect the Sheikh Usani, one will expect most of these people who we call the radical elites, radical educational people in the North. Remember the days of the 70s and 80s in the school of radicalism in ABU, where the proletariats were said to be coming against the bourgeoisie in those days of Wilmot and all these things. Yeah. Now, they have been very quiet. Once Islam is mentioned, it's so highly sensitive that the educated elites in the North, who could have a leverage on these people, suddenly move back. And it now has to do with the Southern press and what we call the Southern people talking about it. So going back to the question, therefore, the issue is that rule of law, the people are now taking the government of Buhari to the cleaners regarding the handling of this case, because the court of law had earlier said El-Zakzaky should be released. And the president, back to national security, I decided to hold him down because at the end of the day, the movement of the Islamic movement of Nigeria is very strong, and it's not based on any intellectual reasoning. They're based on the fact that they're out to install an Islamic state in this country with an ayatollah or an ayatollah kind of person, which would be El-Zakzaky as a spiritual leader.
Anita and Alessa, we have in Pakistan what is called the Bagram cells. In Ghana, it's called the Michel Camp in Achimota Forest. That's in Ghana. In Nigeria, we used to have the Itaoko, somewhere in Ekpe. I hear it's an island or something in the middle of the sea and so on, where people considered enemies of the state.
And we have the Guantanamo Bay in the U.S.
Guantanamo Bay and so on. So these are established by governments in those countries.
Yes. Okay.
Right, wrong?
Right.
Okay.
No, you see, the truth of the matter is this. I want to agree. I want to appreciate what Doc has said. The truth of the matter is this. No government will fold its arms. And let's even talk about this court, the so-called court order.
It's not so-called.
Yeah, no, because
Please.
a lot of
Subsisting.
people, a lot of people have not
It's
even.
not a so-called.
A lot of critics.
Justice Gabriel Kolawole
gave an order.
pronounced it.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people have not seen the judgment, nor read the content of the judgment.
That doesn't make
No. It doesn't change anything. It said release this man unconditionally.
It wasn't unconditionally. Every bill comes with a condition and some guidelines. It says release him back to his house. Rebuild his house that were destroyed.
And pay compensation.
Pay compensation.
That was the order.
6 million.
Yeah.
Rebuild his house that was destroyed. Now, there was a time the information minister, Lai Mohammed, was on air to talk about this matter. It says that one problem that even the government was having was to rebuild his house because people around him are tired of his activities within that environment. That was even why it was said that he's being kept in protective custody. Because even the people around that, because at a point you become a lord in Zaria. And so inconvenienced even the moderate Islam, the Sunni Islam. And so it was even like a relief to pass quite a number of them. I do not know if that line of thought was correct or incorrect, but I want to take what the government said. Because a lot of people that are saying the judge, they never said unconditionally. There were conditions. And if you have an issue that, okay, you went to court, and the court said released him, rebuilt his house, pay compensation, and this one has not happened, you go back to the court.
Seek
Because the extra, look, it is not a movement of area boys or these ones you see on the street. There are top echelon of this movement. A serving minister in this country is part of this, is in this movement. There are top echelons that should know how to arrange and organize themselves to be formidable. Now you go back to the court, either to the lower court or back to the Supreme Appeal Court and say, look, we have a judgment at the lower court and this has not happened. If you can't get justice, you go to the Supreme Court. You have not exhausted, you are talking about rule of law. You have not exhausted the opportunities open to you. And you are taking laws into your hand. Protest will not solve the issues. Now, government has a right to keep anybody that is considered a national security risk. Guantanamo Bay, after the 911 was established, and all the persons that were arrested in combat were taken there. There were courts in America that gave contrary judgments. I was reading a few of them when I was coming for this program. People can go and Google it. But as of today, even when Barack Obama promised to close Gitmo in his first term, Barack Obama finished 8 years, he couldn't close Gitmo because of the inherent security this around, because even the security agencies would refuse. The president wanted to close it, he could not. Because when there are issues, compelling reasons why things should happen that way. And so, what do we want for our country? Do we want a lawless country? Because somebody's because we must maintain law at all. I'm for rule of law. I will not support anybody being shot on the street. I will not even support myself, my car being stopped on the road unduly. I will not support my freedom I will not support anybody being shot for having a peace. As of today, NS is protesting. Was anybody shot? So, if you are protesting peacefully, which is allowed, not when you are protesting with petrol bomb, with stones, with sticks. And this is not the first protest. Remember, that was the one they had around the what do you call the place? Around the CBN and Hilton Hotel in Abuja. Yeah. That the police was using cannon and they damaged a lot of police vehicles that day. So let us be factual on what we're saying.
So we'll return to where we started out from.
All right.
How do we get around this issue? And how soon would the debate go away?
Well, I think the debate is not going away anytime soon because of the infiltration of politics, into a very clear security threat issue we have on our hands. And I think it is gradually becoming a campaign issue, within the polity. However, we shouldn't generally, as a nation, collectively, we shouldn't succumb, to the intimidation and blackmail of people who really want to, reap political capital from every unfortunate situation we have on our hands.
Or if you like, our internal weaknesses.
Exactly, and that is exactly what we are seeing, which is quite unfortunate. Unfortunately, the political class we have here, they are quite very selfish, and all their agenda is all about themselves, and they don't even mind if the entire nation gets ablaze.
Blow the country to smithereens.
Exactly.
To what advantage? Dr. Boyo, so religion poisons almost everything. That's open to debate.
Yes, religion poisons almost everything, especially in a society where illiteracy, poverty, and ignorance prevails. Because when you have a situation where people are unemployed and people don't know what to do, they have they are not educated, they are unemployed, and and there's no social network to take care of them.
You tend to ask if these unemployment are induced or is induced.
Oh, in the North, where education has taken a back burner, since independence, with every effort. You imagine now, 1976 Universal Primary Education Scheme, compulsory Universal Primary Education Scheme was introduced. Now it's now, that's about 42 years. Yeah. Anybody who is 42 years old today and doesn't have a primary education, it's illegal. It's supposed to be, I've gone to school. And if you've had a very good primary education, you're able to have some things you can learn, and you can read, you can write, you can be numeracy and all those things. But what we have today is that in the North, and with no apologies to anybody, it appears as if people have been deliberately held down in terms of education, Western education. Boko Haram, what is Boko Haram about? It's a campaign against Western education. Western education. So a lot of people in the North go to the Islamic schools, leave the Islamic schools, and roam. There are very limited opportunities for somebody with an Islamic education to get a good job and climb to, say you want to go and become an al-Qadi in the Grand Qadi.
Let's stay for some more seconds with Boko Haram.
Yes.
If Mohammed Yusuf was not shot,
yes,
would Boko Haram be this violent, volatile?
Oh, it was a movement, just like El-Zakzaky. In fact, the Islamic movement of Nigeria, led by El-Zakzaky, had come out to say, we're not Boko Haram. Of course, they would say that because Boko Haram has more of its roots with, ISIS and things like that, and they're still within this. Whereas you have the Islamic movement of Nigeria having with Syria, Iran, and all those other sects. So there's already a problem, like you said, about the Yemeni crisis. So Boko Haram itself was a movement. Just like you can imagine a young man in university from 100 level, raising people. He went to read Islamic education, became an economist, very intelligent young man, having a first class in economics. Yeah. But he didn't stop there. It was a movement to overthrow the government of Nigeria. It wasn't a movement to prepare people for heaven or to Islamize or evangelize per se alone, but to be able to take over the government of Nigeria. So it was really what you may call a subversion, a rebellion brewing. And Boko Haram isn't just to propagate Islam. Boko Haram has said that they are against the very fabric of the way the country is being run, Western education. So going back to what we were saying, El-Zakzaky, even if he's released today, he won't recant. But I want to say where the problem really comes from. The problem comes from the fact that this government has often made a mistake in the area of not instituting a judicial commission of inquiry. When Maitasile came up, there's a white paper on Maitasile. There was a judicial commission of inquiry. The case of Godwin Akaluka that was killed in Kano, there was a commission of inquiry. If when El-Zakzaky was fermenting his trouble and they blocked the road against the convoy of the military in Zaria, and there was an exchange, if there was a judicial commission of inquiry, he found these people guilty, asked them to be paid whatever it is, and they were sentenced or taken to a court, a proper court of law, and it was sentenced. The penal code has things to do with breaching the public peace and everything. El-Zakzaky will have been in prison legitimately. But this idea, the same thing with all the riots in Borno State, Benue State, Plateau State, Taraba State, we just after a while, 200 people dead, and we go on with life as if nothing happened. If there were commissions of inquiry,
impunity is not punished.
If there were commissions, judicial commission of inquiry, and these people were brought before a judge that can give sentence on the spot, looking at what happens and comes out with a report. And this report is eventually, the government produces a white paper on it, and people are, punishment is there, police get its own reprimand, the government gets its own reprimand, the SSS, the military, whoever is there gets its own reprimand, and the culprits on both sides, whether the headsmen or the natives, are sent to jail. El-Zakzaky would have been in jail properly.
All right, in jail properly. I rather like that. Yakub is calling from Lagos. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, citizen.
Yeah.
And good morning to all your guests because of the time.
Yeah, good morning.
Citizen, I think the truth must be seen here. By my name, I'm a Muslim, and then I believe that if 2 or 3 people Muslims have the opportunity to call to this program this morning, they will definitely disagree with El-Zakzaky. Let me give you a typical example, sir. If El-Zakzaky says that it's a movement of Islam, I want you people as a media organization to remove word of Islam from the El-Zakzaky movement. Why am I saying that? El-Zakzaky as a group, there was nowhere in our Quran that called El-Zakzaky Shia because you are a Muslim. Nowhere in our Quran from the front to the back of the Quran. Nowhere they write you are a Shia, you are a Sunni, you are whatever. Now, if El-Zakzaky group block the road for military, by the way, if El-Zakzaky and then Korib today go ahead, block the road, Nifat block the road, Tijaniya block the road, all those organizations continue to block the road. What are we going to this country?
Okay.
See, El-Zakzaky, for me, I'm of opinion, they should keep El-Zakzaky because it is confronting the organization of this country, symbol of the nation. Because El-Zakzaky has been trying to do this often and often, yearly. How could you be doing that? You call yourself Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. El-Zakzaky should be killed. Thank you, God bless you.
Okay. Alistair, are we in a quandary?
No, we are not in a quandary. Like I said, I have never lost sleep over this. Tough times don't last, tough people do. And I'm happy they are dealing with a president that is tough and resolute as far as this matter is concerned. This is a man that has that was there at the forefront of Maitasini as a GOC 3 Armored Division just and led the troops that really crushed Maitasini. So he's not giving into that. And that is also why I also want to acknowledge those who are accusing the president wrongly of all kinds of things, of Islamizing Nigeria and all that, all those nonsense. You can see his action against a radical Islam. If you want to Islamize Nigeria, who do you need? It's a man like El-Zakzaky. But if you are the one that is destroying El-Zakzaky, that wants El-Zakzaky that is taming him down, then you mean well for the country. I think for me, you cannot subvert the legitimacy and authority of this country.
All right.
You cannot do it and go scot-free.
What about the issue of judicial commission
and
inquiry?
go cannot.
Because if there was a judicial commission...
Let me take George. He's called in. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Citizen Jones, my guest.
I greet you, sir.
Citizen Jones, I think the earlier the government goes hard on this group and prescribe it, the better. If you look at their modus operandi, Citizen Jones, you'll see that it is the same thing with Boko Haram. If they have been indoctrinated to believe that even when they die in the course of what they do, they go straight to receive a spiritual blessing in heaven. That's why each time they go on their escapade and any of them dies, more of them surge forward, making it look as if when you kill them, they are better off spiritually. The government needs to go hard on this group and prescribe it before it grows into another Boko Haram.
Thank you. Thank
How
you, Judge.
do you have a country where a sect becomes a government of its own? It's not permitted in any civilized society.
Okay, Judge.
The government, I repeat, should prescribe the group.
All right.
Thank you.
You share the sentiment?
Yes, of course. You know,
But because you would have thought IMN would have been long prescribed.
Yeah, of course. If you look at the antecedents and just what Doc said, if you look at the trajectory of this violence, it didn't start yesterday.
Anytime, but prescription is not a word you normally would relate with democratic settings?
Yes, of course, but however, you can actually look at the way government moved against the IPOB, when the whole thing was getting out of hand and all that. They have to prescribe them. And if you look at certain characteristics, the activities of IMN in recent years, lend support to the fact that they should be prescribed. Because if you have an organization or a sect that has become a great security threat to the unity, to the safety of the public, you have to prescribe that organization.
Okay.
And if you have an organization that almost every year is having a very strong confrontation with the armed forces and all that, you have to prescribe, the set. So prescription is allowed.
All right,
It will be in the best interest of the nation. And I think the government should, actually weigh in and prescribe the IMN.
Okay, our last but not the least
Hello?
call. Yeah, Adesanya is here. Good morning.
Hello, Citizen Joe.
I greet you. Welcome.
Hello?
Let's go. Yeah, welcome, Adesanya.
Hello?
Are you quite ready? Are you quite ready? Are you quite ready for us?
John?
All right,
network issue.
Doc.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Doc. In taking it home, you talked about judicial commissions of inquiry
Yes.
over time.
Yes.
Too late in the day?
It's not too late in the day, because at the end of the day, if you prescribe these people, someone will say, you know what, you're talking about rule of law. If there's a rule of law, a proper commission of inquiry will investigate what these people are, their tenets. Will also invite public to send in memoranda. They will ask their neighbors how they have been disturbing the neighborhood. They can even ask that his house be removed from that place. All this issue of asking for saying that they want him, I wonder if you are properly jailed. People, even Awolowo, after the 1962 crisis, he was jailed by a court of law.
Yeah.
Even though it was political, people were against it. Once a court of law speaks, and that's why we are talking about rule of law. You can keep somebody out of national interest for some time, but set up a commission of inquiry. Are you afraid of the truth? A judicial commission of inquiry will invite these people to talk, will invite the Islamic clerics to talk, the Sultan of Sokoto, who is the head of the Islamic, everybody will send a memoranda, and will now say, based on the following, we have found that this group is a threat to the well-being of this country and should be proscribed. Okay. Then the white paper will come out and the group will be proscribed, and that will be the end of it. And that's what was done by Tasini. That was also done in so many other times that we have had this thing.
Okay. All right, then. Eniton Ulukotun, I must thank you for coming.
It's a
time
pleasure,
is tight.
Stephen Jones.
Alester Wilcox, many thanks for your time.
Pleasure. We must stand together with the government on this issue.
Okay.
We must stand together, yes.
Dr. Boyo, many thanks.
I must bring Mayeti Alatu to the Commission of Inquiry.
Okay, then. Okay, then.
That will always bring it that.
Okay, then. In closing, let's say this. It is open to debate that religion poisons almost everything in this country. Let the debate go on. But we are saying the rule of law in one plate, national security in another plate. How do you weigh them? We'll be here tomorrow with Yori. Thank you for your time.